Hey guys, Stealth here. Today, Transport Fever, how to start. You just started your own free game, and now where do you even begin with your empire? For me, I've picked a small, easy map as an example, but your landscape may of course be vastly different. The year is 1950, which means I have 30 million. And where do you begin to spend your money? The way that I usually go for it is first to set up a passenger line. It is by far the easiest and the simplest way to make a lot of money early on. Because, for example, if you look at Cromer, it does not need that much along the lines of industrial requirements or commercial requirements. It can accept 90 food, 90 goods, a bit of construction material, a bit of fuel. Stuff like that is nothing too serious. Now, the fastest way, and the thing that they desire most, is connections to other towns. And with a town number of residents of 315, add that to Waltham Cross of 254, and for example Leighton Linslade at 169, I think that this would be a pretty nice triangle to keep train lines running on. How exactly you decide to do that is your own choice. I usually decide to go for one line, for example from Leighton to Waltham and back, one from Waltham to Cromer and back, and one from Cromer to Leighton and back. So that there's one train line everywhere. You don't need to have these things go in triangles if you want to. I mean, you could just make a line that goes Leighton, Waltham, Cromer, and then back. It's the same way. Especially with larger constructions, so 4 to 6 towns, this becomes more difficult. So that is one thing that you could do on this map, but let's have a look at some others. If you look towards the northern end of the map, we have Ulchester, we have East Retford, and we have Worksop. Now, I'm looking towards what production facilities are around. What areas could I work to improve the easiest? What is the quickest win? And currently, I don't see any, at least not on the northern end of the map. What they have over here, for example, is a goods facility or a goods factory. This one requires planks and plastic or planks and steel. Now, this is not something that I can easily provide. Steel, I don't think there is any facility anywhere close. And close is what I would consider, for example, towards Redford. That's pretty much the farthest I would go for a train, at least early on. So that is no good. And thereby, all of the facilities around just immediately lose their interest. This one is only subservient to making planks. That's all it does. But there is no planks factory around for miles and miles. The closest one is over here. And that is taking forever to get to. Alternatively, could I maybe provide fuel to Worksop or to East Retford? Maybe. Let's see. Do we have a refinery? Well, yes we do. We have a refinery which is beautifully in the middle, or mostly towards Worksop, but pretty much in the middle of these towns. So that if I can get this one to deliver to Worksop and to East Retford, they have a nice demand, I can set up a pretty easy rail line, but I'm gonna need crude oil to do that. Here's the problem. In the north there is no crude oil. The closest bit of crude oil, as per the usual, is on the other side of the map. It's down there. Now we can have a look at the factories list and see if there are any other oil wells. So there's, according to the list, only 2. There is one in Linton Linslade, and the other one's over here. That's because it's a small map. A larger map, of course, could be completely different, and you could have pretty nice opportunities. So if I wanted to get this line going, East Retford, Worksop, fuel line, then there are a few objections. 1, they don't need that much. They just don't have that much of a requirement. 2, if I grow the industrial area of Worksop, I'm not only going to need fuel, I'm also going to need machines and construction materials, all of which are going to take a significant investment to get to that town. And third, okay, let's suppose that all of those above are not an objection and I can grow this town. Then there's going to be a high number of jobs here, but there's not that much around in the sense of towns that can provide the workforce. Worksop will grow, at least slightly over time. But the only town in the near vicinity that could provide labor is East Retford. So I don't really have too much of an incentive to work on Worksop. East Retford does not look too appealing either. They have an oil refinery here, so this could be another oil refinery sitting between Retford and Alchester. But then again, I still need to get the fuel there, which is going to be a pretty expensive line. If I just take a rough estimate starting there, this line is going to cost me, and of course it's going to be slightly less than that, but let's say 10. I think you could get it done for about 7 million. That's pretty expensive. And then there's the same issue. I can really only easily provide the fuel to East Retford. Nothing else. I could not really easily provide goods to it. I could not easily provide fuel or a stone to it or construction material. So that's another no-go for me. That's another late game development that I might look into. Over to the east, we have a construction materials plant. This thing needs stone, which is usually pretty easy to find, except for example on this map, where the stone is on the wrong side of the map. We have 2 quarries here, which are pretty much another vast distance apart. Again, not very economically viable. Rough estimate, let's say I don't make tunnels everywhere. Could probably get it done for 1 million or 5. Still not very interesting. So the easiest way to start making money is to set up a very easy transport line, just passengers, to Leighton, Waltham, and then Cromer. Just a triangle. So that's what I'm going to do. Since this is going to be the absolute end of the map, I'm going to go with a terminal station. And the terminal station, I'm going to try and put that in a position where I expect the town to grow towards. So for me that's going to be about here. I'm going to connect that thing manually to the town. And I hope that the town will organically grow around it. Always make sure you have a bus stop or a bus station close to it. So that's one train. And then, actually before I forget it, I'm going to make it another, and I should have done this right from the start, I'm going to give it 2 tracks. So that the triangle will always have an opportunity to land a train there. Same thing on this end. I'm going to set it to 2 tracks. I can pretty easily add it to this bit of town. Add a bus stop. And then the bus stops themselves I will add on later. And then finally Cromer. Now Cromer is an exception. I could say I only want to focus on this bit of the map for now. But I always want to be looking towards future expansion. If I want to connect Cromer towards Alchester, then I would like my passengers not to have to go to 2 different stations. So for example, I have a station here, and then they have to take the bus from here to the other side of town to hop on the other train station. Especially in larger towns this could work, but it's not very convenient for the passengers. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to look towards the future, and I want to say, okay, suppose I wanted to hook it up to Alchester later. How do we do that? Easiest way, make the train station get towards this end of town. So I'm going to go for a standard train station. I'm going to set it to 3 tracks, for the simple reason that this way every direction has 1 track of its own. So I can have one of these tracks heading southeast. I can have one of these tracks heading southwest, and I can have for the future one of these tracks heading north towards the next town, which is not going to be included in this example. Anyway, let's get this train line up and running. It is going to be very, very straightforward, which for my train lines is actually rather effective because it makes it so that the trains can always pump at max speed. Now, as you can see, I did this section in 2 different steps because my game was trying to get me to build a tunnel. Tunnels are rather expensive and not what I need. Not initially, that is. Come on, let's go. And we need to start angling a bit further north, which is going to cut into my transport speed a little bit. This is not the most beautiful line I've constructed, but it works. We're going to go north, preferably without too much alterations to the terrain. 135k. There's the train line. Looks like I misaligned it just a little bit. And delete these sections, making sure I don't lose too much speed in the turns. And that should do it. Are we hooked up? Yes, we're hooked up. Perfect. Now, let's make sure that I only need one depot for all of these train lines. There's a really easy way to do that. You simply need to connect a few of these lines together. Just like that. I'm going to set up my depot here. Let's take the train depot, put it down there. And since I have a bit of room, I'm going to make this thing go round. As much as possible, that is. I hope that there's enough room here. There should be. Too much curvature. There you go. Oh, nope, it's not aligned properly. That would not work. Ah, my train depot is not far enough back. Alright, let's just try that again. Keep going that way. And there it is. This way, I have the perfect opportunity to only have one depot, which can be reached by all the lines. So we're going to set up 3 lines. One this way. And I'm not going to be renaming these for the moment. One that way. And I'm going to need one more line going from there to here. So we're going to need 3 trains. Easiest way to do that, especially in the 1950s, which is where I'm starting, is to just go for 3 red arrows. You are going to go on line 1, you're going to go on line 2, you're going to go on line 3. Making sure that these things get fed is important. And by getting fed, I mean that currently the station only has a small-ish catchment area. Most of the urban area of the town is not covered. And that's an especially important area that I want to cover. So I'm going to set up a bus line, making sure that most of the town is covered by the bus line. Let's try not to delete any houses, as that gets expensive. Add another there. You can see I have these things overlapping. This is with a future goal in mind, of that this town will probably expand, and this way I have at least a little bit of leeway, making sure that I don't immediately need to realign my bus stops. Let's add a depot. Set up one bus, just the standard Souter on line 4. Same thing on this end. And we're going to need to put that thing here. Bus stops. One on the right side there. One towards the left. This is a smaller town, so I think it can do with 3 bus stops for now. Normally I would be renaming these stops or these bus lines, but for this example I think you can still follow. There are not too many bus lines. Of course, as your rail network or as your transport network gets more impressive or more complicated, it's going to take more work, and I would highly recommend that you rename some of those things to make sure that you know exactly what line is doing what job and potentially which line needs an upgrade. Now let's hook up this bit to... Oh, is that really going to be necessary? There you go. You can put one there. This town is not very bus friendly at the moment, but it'll have to do. And it just has only 4 stops. That's all it needs. Let's add the bus, or add the depot. Buy one, and set it up to line 6. Let's have a look at what works. As per the usual, it's going to take a while before all of these things pick up, because passengers in Cromer need to understand that there is a new bus line in town, and the same goes for these things here. Now we have the first trains on their way. Train 3, which is the train that is set up to line 3, and line 3 is this one over here, is still waiting for a free path, which it's not likely to get. So I'm going to make sure that it has a free path, so an area where these trains can pass each other without going for a dual line immediately. I'm going to do it like this. This way a train can be passing here, and we're going to park it over there. Let's see if that works. It's not enough yet. Which way would it like to go? Because I'm assuming that this train needs to go to the station, then it's going to get a stop order. So I need to have a stop order waiting for it. Let's say right about there. And then for further ease of access, there we go. He is now moving towards the train station, and now he can pass towards the north of the area. Wait, what? I gotta add this one. This is what I forgot to do. Because my line 3 just could not get to where it needed to go. And now it should be all okay. It's gonna switch gears. There you go. And now it's running on every line. So it can all be achieved with one depot. You can see that there's already some people waiting here. Every 10 passengers is represented by one of those fixed sticker or stick figures that you see there. There's 12 people waiting for line 2, 6 for line 1, and it just is going to keep going up. I've spent about 9 million. I think you can do it a bit cheaper than that if you want to. And this is, from what I've seen over the about a dozen, maybe 2 dozen games by now that I've played, this is one of the easiest way to start making money. Initially, it's not going to be making money just yet. Because, as mentioned, some of these trains are going to be running empty or half empty. This one currently only has 8 passengers. But sooner rather than later, people are going to learn that they can actually use this line. See, there's already 11 people waiting for line 1, which is this one. And these things don't need much to cover the running costs. Running cost is only 187,000 a year, which for a train is really, really cheap. And right now it already has 12 out of 18 passengers. Soon I'm going to need to upgrade these lines, adding either more transport capacity or more people to the line. Train is going to move towards the station, drop it off, and let's see. Oh, not upgraded. There you go. It already made 112k. And with it, even if it doesn't make any further money in 1951, which is not likely since it's only April, even if it doesn't make any further money, it already made a profit. With running costs annually of... Actually, it needs a bit more. I thought the running cost would be 187, but it's a bit more than that. This one, also doing quite well. 400,000 this year alone. And if I don't touch the game at all, it is going to continue to make me money. Very easy. I've only spent 9 million on this initial investment, and I can quickly ramp up further production, further transport requirements, and further growth of all the towns involved. Of both Waltham Cross, Leighton Linslade here, and Cromer. They are all growing. And the next part of your expansion could be from Cromer to Alchester or to Redford. And then considering that this is just a very small map, you can really quickly have a very solid production of money coming in. Let's see, if I don't touch the game at all this year, what do I make? It's September, so it's just going to be 3 more months. I think I can break 1 million. Probably pretty easily. There you go, million. 1 year. It's October now. Of course, it's going to go up and down a bit as we're keeping monthly payments of the running costs. Still 1 million. We still have November and December to go, but look at this. Line 2 is so popular that it has 19 people waiting. Now, don't let this fool you and immediately buy a new train, Because you could be looking at it and go, oh, 19 people, I need to buy a new train, only to find out that your train is coming in right at that moment, in which case you don't really need an upgrade. If my train, however, like it is in the current situation, is on the other end, then you can go for a new train. Line 2 here requires 30 people has 30 people that require transportation. So in this situation, I could add another vehicle. But here's the problem with that. If I add another vehicle to the line right now, it's going to run into each other. So, and that's going to be the final bit of this tutorial, I need to make sure that there's enough capacity on this line. And by capacity, I mean if I add another vehicle, they're going to run into each other and just stop. So what I'm going to do is double up on this rail line. You don't need a second track or a second stop on your train station. That's not required. Just split it off as soon as you can after the train station. And then simply, if the game allows it, align it after, or correction, next to your original line. And sometimes you're going to have to do a bit of reconstruction, since the game doesn't always allow it. I think this one's the problem here. This will usually lead to all sorts of errors and warnings. Don't be too upset by that, as it is something that we can pretty easily fix. There we go. Now we need to reconnect these roads, which really shouldn't be that much of an issue. There you go. And then there's no further warnings. So, we need to make sure that this thing gets all the way to the north. Almost there. Could have another issue transporting or pulling the line. Nope, this one's perfectly aligned. Good. Now I'm going to rejoin the line here. And there you go. Now it's not likely to use this new bit of track immediately. You can see it's only selecting the new track. That's not what I needed to do. I need to make sure that this thing has usage of both lines, and what I need to do for that is to put a path signal. Trains will always try to drive on the right side of the tracks. This is important. I need to make sure that on the way from north to south it takes this one, and then on the way back it takes the one that's currently highlighted. The easiest way to do that is to simply put a traffic light or a path sign at the position where they're about to rejoin. So right there. What happens now is that if a train does decide to take this route, it's going to say, oh, this area of track, this section right here is currently occupied and I cannot go there. In which case I'm just going to have to wait until it's cleared. So until the train that is currently there has disappeared. Similarly, I need to set up a similar path sign on the other end. Because right now, a train does not make use of the other bit, as it only thinks that it can use one sign, or one side. Right now, it's going to go south. It's going to continue to do so, and it's going to be sitting here, waiting for orders until this path is cleared, and then head all the way north. This is really all you need if you have just two trains running, which is what I want to do in this example. So we're going to add this one. This is train 2 on line 2. So we're going to set you up on line 2 as well. And here it is. Coming in right now. It's immediately going towards the train station. You can see the other one's perfectly waiting. He switches to his right side, or to the right side for line 2. He just zips off with 18 passengers aboard. The other train is now coming in the opposite direction on the other side of the tracks. And this is all there is to it. Now I can virtually instantly double the amount of profit that's coming in from line 2, which is already $800,000. So next year, if all goes well, I can probably get about $1.5 million from just that one line. This thing cost me, I believe, 1.8 million. Its first bit of travel made me 194. So let's say it makes about and we can estimate this pretty damn accurately by selecting this one. This one made 855,000 last year, meaning that it pays for itself in, let's say, 2.5 years. After that, it is pure profit. After that, all you're going to get is pure profit. And these things will just keep moving back and forth. There are ways to add further trains to this section, because currently they're just about covering the demand, but the demand might go up so much so that I need bigger trains. But that's not going to be covered in this episode or this tutorial. We're going to be looking into that for another one. For now, I am making money. I'm making good money at that. I was not really going to spend any money in 1951. Let's make that 1952. And you can see that 1952 is only halfway done. We're in May. And I already made 800 grand. Or 8 grand. So we're doing very, very well. Correction, not 8 grand. 7 tons or 1 million now. So that's how you get started in the game. Pick a few towns, make sure that they are not on other sides of the map, make sure that they are pretty easily connectable. Having a large mountainside in between is going to make it really expensive. Pick something that's easy to do, a quick win, connect those things up, and you're quickly going to see a nice amount of money rolling in. 1.5 million in July. So, that concludes this tutorial. I hope it was helpful to you. If it was, please give it a like so we can get it higher in YouTube and help out more newer players. If you have any things you'd like to add, then please add those in the comments down below. And similarly, if you have a question, then please add that down below so I can help you out with the questions that you may have about the game. For now, thank you for watching, I hope it was useful, and I'll see you soon for more Transport Fever.